Welcome to Bike Week Radio Show.
Powered by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Good morning and welcome into Bike Week Radio Show on San Diego Sports Leader, the mighty 1090. And I apologize already if I'm a little bit hoarse, but it's been a long week for us here on Bike Week Radio Show.
Yeah, it really has, and a long week for you, and you're down there manning the Bike Week Radio Show.
We can track it all the way back to
Petco
Thursday.
Park.
We're down at Toyota Escondido shaking hands with some of our lovely Bike Week Radio Show listeners.
A big crowd came out to Toyota Escondido, the annual event every Thursday night before the San Diego Supercross, and that was a great show. Yeah, we've been running hard.
And Broc Glover, I'm surprised you're still standing after all the awards you've been given this last week, and
actually,
all the speeches and
I'm
cheers
actually
and
a little taller
to
than this. I will stand up right now because I am sitting, Bobby. But it's it's been a great week. I will say that I'm kind of happy when it kind of winds down, but we still have a full day today too.
Indeed, in studio. Steve Matthes from Pulp MX. You can follow him on Twitter at Pulp MX also. And Steve, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's cool to be here. I can't believe I'm here with Broc Glover. That's awesome.
I know. We take it for granted. Yeah. And also Paul Carruthers, once again in studio. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good morning. It's nice to be down here, and lovely little drive down from Orange County. I looked at Trestles, and would have been nice to stop, and it was very nice. Very nice.
And also here,
Trestles is a local surf break for anybody listening that's not from the San Onofre area.
Also in studio is a whole gaggle of people. But also right next to me, Scott Cox, who I just saw some of the photos. They went up on the Bike Week Radio Show smartphone app. The best way to check it out on Facebook page or our good buddy Phil Cotner, who updates the Bike Week Radio Show smartphone app. He put up some cool pictures of us hanging out the pits yesterday.
You did, yeah. We had a lot of fun there. We were actually the first display set up in the pits. We were as close to the Petco Park as we could get without actually being part of Petco Park.
And how did you get that location?
Well, our good friend Mike Owens greeted us as we drove
from the Legends and Heroes.
From Legends and Heroes.
Would you guys like to know what time it is right now?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you?
My eyes. Let me put some sunglasses on that.
This,
Rock Sport, a new timepiece from Rockwell.
Yes, my new Legends and Hero Rockwell piece. Got to congratulate. Thank you, Rockwell, for that nice little treat.
Yeah, but we were well represented there, Bobby, with listeners. I mean, we had a steady flow of listeners from about 11 o'clock in the morning until they booted us out of there so we could accompany Broc and about 400 legends and heroes of the sport, friends and families.
Not to name drop, Scott, but who were a couple of those guys that I have to thank so much for coming down on the stage
let
floor
me dig
there?
deep. Let me look at my notes again. There was a guy named Ricky Johnson there.
Yeah. Won a couple races, I think. Didn't Ricky?
He was a pretty good rider.
Rick Johnson. He rode okay,
He kind of held his own.
Did he ride in Canada up with you?
No, but RJ did ride the Toronto Supercross a few times.
Okay, good. Another guy, another great
guy.
champion.
Let's see. There was a dude there. David Bailey.
David
Bailey.
Bailey.
Bobby's sharing his notes.
Yeah,
David Bailey was Aaron. I kind of recall him.
Donnie Hansen, Chuck's son. I'm trying to think. They had a lot of champions up there. It was very cool. Very cool.
We had some of our local heroes. I know he's a hero of yours. Billy Urban.
Billy
was
Urban.
Up there.
Jimmy Beecham had his
Beecham was there.
60th birthday party at that beautiful Co-America building.
Scott Burnworth, the burner, who's throwing a big fest, his third annual Carlsbad reunion today.
Are we going to get him on the phone later?
He's supposed to. He's over there making beer right now.
Third annual Carlsbad reunion today.
Yeah, so he owns the Booze Brothers facility in Vista today, and he's got to get over there and scrub the big beer steins.
So what you're trying to say that Petco Park yesterday for the inaugural Supercross at the new venue here in San Diego,
unreal.
It was
Let's
the
just call
place
it like
to be.
It was. It was like that facility. They call it a made-for-baseball facility.
And to steal a line
baseball,
from Tim Cotter, it was a Chamber of Commerce day.
It was.
It was.
It had to be 80 degrees. We're all sunburning here.
How many times you heard that line?
I know,
from Cotter?
right? Yeah, a lot.
We go to the Nationals, and it's every single. It'd be pouring rain in Indianapolis or Indiana area, and he'll say it was Chamber of Commerce day, and it just comes out.
Look at Winnie Kershaw go. Winnie's here. I was in Winnie's house in Austria the day we went on air 3 years ago, and here he is. He's walking around downtown, walking through the pits and the track. He's got this glow about him, and I know when he gets off the plane in Austria at home tomorrow, people are going to be suspect of this.
I bet he doesn't. I bet he's not wearing those sandals when he gets off the
look
plane
at
in
that!
Austria.
I took him to Hanson Surf Shop, and
Decked him up.
we're looking at his bare feet.
From Austria winters to San Diego summers and flip flops. I love it.
And Winnie, great job also on the setup and teardown crew for our setup. Yes,
Exactly.
Did he get his per diem? I saw him chewing a big old burrito that you were hauling.
Burrito and a cup of coffee is about all we can afford to pay him. But thanks again to Winnie. But we alluded to it, San Diego Supercross. We'll get into that breakdown with Broc Glover, but let's just jump into the news with Paul Carruthers.
Nobody knows the news better than Bike Week Radio Show.
This was an age when only men were allowed to read the news.
And only Bike Week Radio Show has Paul Carruthers.
See, I'm here. We can do the news now. It's all right, everyone. We can do the news. Hold on. Everyone, why are we all standing around? Let's go.
Well, obviously, San Diego Supercross last night will be the hot topic here today. But before we get started on that, let's talk a little MotoGP. 28 riders showed up at Sepang in Malaysia for the first ever 2015 test. The season gets started in Qatar on March 29th, so those guys are getting down to the point of doing real business. And all the factory teams were at the test: Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Ducati, Aprilia, and their satellite teams. They also had a lot of test riders there. So, yeah, 28 guys showed up. Actually, that's more than you'll see at a Grand Prix, so they're pretty serious. Marc Marquez, that little Spanish guy.
So how do they eliminate those guys? You get 28 guys show up, and how many they don't let that many people start?
No. They'll all start, but
Okay.
but they don't normally have their test riders. So they had
okay.
Japanese test riders were there from Suzuki and Aprilia had some test riders. Honda and Yamaha and Ducati had their regular factory riders and also their satellite teams. So I think they'd probably be 23 or 24 on the grid for the first race. As I said, Marc Marquez, the defending two-time world champion, led the way. And he broke his qualifying record from a year ago and became the first rider in Sepang history to lap in the 158s. He was 158.867. Just a tick behind him was his teammate, Danny Pedrosa. And then actually the new Ducati factory guy, Andrea Iannone, was third. And then came the factory Yamahas of Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo. Our lone American, Nicky Hayden, was 18th on his new Honda. I think he seems pretty pleased with it because it's got a lot more power. They're just working with some electronics, and I guess it's a bit more difficult to ride because of that extra power. But I think we'll see some improvement from Nicky. And I actually saw him last week. No, actually the week before. And his wrist seems to be doing better. He's back to riding Supermoto and riding dirt track again, where last year he was kind of limited on how much riding he could do because there was so much pain in the wrist. So the surgery obviously has helped him, and hopefully, we can have an American that starts to do something again over there, so we have somebody to cheer for. The other thing, technology in MotoGP is obviously very important, and Honda. If you remember last year, Yamaha finally got their seamless transmission that we used to talk about. Well, Honda has seamless transmission that goes both ways, upshifts and downshifts, and Yamaha's was just upshift. But now they're hoping to have the downshift version of the seamless transmission at the next test. So that, they're only a couple of tenths behind Marquez, and maybe that'll help close the gap. After the MotoGP test, Michelin took over.
Cut in here on the transmission. So how much time, if you have a seamless transmission that works properly, how much time would that save in the lap?
Probably tenths.
A tenth or 9/10?
Yeah, no, a tenth.
Yeah.
But really that's how much they're separated by.
Absolutely.
And
so it's just like almost automatic fluid drive. The shifts are just...
and I think, what's obviously that an upshift is what's saving you time on acceleration, but I think the downshift with the seamless transmission, the problem with downshifts on a road race bike is the bike can get a little unstable when you downshift.
Right.
And if it's seamless, I think that stability is there all the time, so that obviously helps you just focus on.
Note to AMA, motocross, supercross, outlaw seamless transmissions in motocross.
Right now.
Start now.
Please
Yeah.
start now. I mean, don't get me started on the cost of racing again.
I know.
Everybody's sick of hearing it.
I mean, when, these MotoGP guys, you can't imagine the money they must be spending. And we talked about it in the back room before the show, and it starts with Honda,
Yep.
and those guys have always been at the top with technology, and
when
everybody
we had
else.
the head of HRC motocross on here, it was like, we've all kind of thought, why is Honda even racing motocross? And I thought that literally in the background. I feel like they were just kind of going through the motions. And when we had him on, he flat out admitted they've been kind of on vacation a little bit in motocross for the last 10 years.
Well, we talked about that in the back room.
No
before.
longer though. They want to win.
It wasn't. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was a while ago when Honda would just, you knew they were going to get the best rider, no matter who he was riding for the year before. If he showed some promise, they signed him up, and he was a factory Honda Supercross motocross rider the next year.
Yep.
And that kind of took, it got pushed to the back seat a little bit.
So when you have the best bike, you spend the most money, and you have the best rider, it's pretty hard to lose.
Right.
I mean, your chances are winning are
just
much
about
higher.
everybody's ever been there except for you, Brock.
Yeah,
Good job
I know.
You should have went there in '86. That was a bad move. But
that's the point we're at with MotoGP. I mean, they lead, and everyone else is. But Yamaha's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've seen by the results, and I think it's going to be. I think they're going to have a really good season with that series this year. Good. Now, Suzuki, on the other hand, they come in. They've been out of it for a while, and they've got to be pretty happy. I mean, Espargaro ended up 10th, and that's with him being 6 miles an hour down on top speed. So, I mean, if they get some top speed, obviously that's going to be a big help. But their big thing was at the end of the year test, the bike kept blowing up. So they've obviously gone back to the drawing board and figured out how to make the thing last. Now
Lost
they got
6 miles an hour.
It's always the best way.
So you're 10 kilometers down from the top guy.
Good news and bad news.
Yeah, exactly. You're
not going to have to push it back, but you're going to get there slower. So anyway, they've still got a little work to do, but apparently the reliability's there now. They just got to get the speed back, and hopefully don't lose the reliability in the process. San Diego Supercross, as most of us listening probably know, Trey Canard won his second race of the year. In the first ever Supercross held at Petco Park, 42,017 people showed up, completely sold out.
Packed.
Or you said maybe some of them didn't show up, but at least it was sold out. Canard passed Ken Roxon, who started fast, led early. Canard passed him on the fourth lap. Then withstood a pretty big charge from Roxon in the closing laps.
Yeah, he gapped him, and Steve, we can comment more about it in a little bit, but yeah, he gapped him a little bit, had 2 or 3 second lead, made a couple bobbles, but also kind of ran into some lap rider situation, and next thing you know, Roxon is breathing down his fender the last 4 or 5 laps, and I actually, for a moment, I kind of thought Roxon was going to get it, and I thought he was going to come back and take it. But,
I sort of did too.
But Trey gathered himself back up and did a great job.
And you mentioned lappers. I mean, it's easy to say that, Roxon got stuck a little bit behind Nick Way, but like you said earlier, I think traffic played a little bit of a role in him catching Canard anyway. And I mean, the thing is with traffic, as we know, it usually goes both ways, at least over the course of the season. Yeah, maybe not necessarily in one race.
Yep.
Ryan Dungey finished third on the factory KTM. He was, what was he? He was 8.5 seconds behind, so he wasn't really. I mean, there was a while there when I thought he was getting close, too.
It was a little bit of a lonely race for Dunge.
Yeah.
Kind of lost the top 2 guys, had a big gap on fourth, which was Chad Reed. So a little bit of a lonely race for Dunge, but he just does what he does. If he didn't have it that night, brings it, gets a third, keeps his points lead. That's kind of
There was one point about lap 14 or 15, though, that they were all within a couple seconds of each other. I mean, it was close. They were all in the same straightaway, all right there. And it just, like you said, it was kind of lonely and a little bit of a sleeper because you're watching the first 2 guys, and then you realize, wait a minute, Dungey's almost as close to second as to first. And so it was real close. And then just the last couple laps, it separated itself back out.
I mean, once he sees that he's not going to do it, he's smart enough to just realize what he's got.
It's a long battle.
And he still leads the championship. He's got 9 points on Roxon and 18 on Canard. Tomac is fourth, 27 points behind. I thought he was a little disappointing last night. He obviously had that ride through the pack, but that was caused by him making a mistake.
Yeah, I actually walked out of the pits with him, and I'm sure he's probably not happy with me saying it, but I was talking with his dad, and we were walking out to our cars at the end of the night, and he was not happy, and he shouldn't be happy. He shouldn't be happy with himself. And I said, hey, the homework for the week is to go look up the word patience and read the definition. And he's got all the talent in the world. He goes in on the very first lap, tried to get under Chad Reed because he knows, hey, look, these are the 4 championship contenders, and Eli was in the tail end. He was the caboose of the championship contenders. Between him and the top 3 riders of Dungey Roczen, Kennard and Dungey was Chad Reed, and he needed to get around Chad Reed, except he could have waited a quarter of a lap more to try to make his move, and he dove in the inside, and I'm sure we all saw it if we watch it on TV, but it was a low percentage angle. It was a low percentage move. Unfortunately, they bumped into each other. He wasn't sure if his bar or something seemed to got tangled on Chad's bike, and
Sorry, I spoke with Chad after the race.
Yeah.
He thinks that it was a wheel into his foot peg.
Okay, gotcha.
It actually lifted the back wheel
up
and spun him around.
And even Chad admitted, he's like, yeah, that's a little early for him to make that move on me. Like, he goes, it was a little impatience. He goes, and that's, Chad, like, he can never finish a sentence, so without throwing in a little bit of a barb. So he goes, that's why some guys are champions, some guys aren't.
Yeah, exactly. And so, thanks for the insight on that, because it is, Eli, he needed to show some more patience. And I'm not saying wait 5 or 6 laps to try to pass Chad Reed, but that was a low percentage move. And if you watch it, the angle was low percentage. And what do you mean by angle? When you're coming into a corner and you're going in at a 90 or, 80 degree angle, that's not a good angle to slip by somebody on the inside. That's a collision angle. And when you do that, like Steve mentioned, foot pegs get caught up in spokes, tires that having people crash. It is unfortunate, because then he spends the entire race coming all the way through the pack. He rode a hell of a race.
Right.
And he comes back, and literally with a half a lap to go, he is almost on Chad Reed's fender. Mm-hmm. And in the little corner, there was a section I was actually right where I was sitting and watching. He makes a bobble, and he's not able to do the rhythm section correctly. He does a double, and then he wasn't able to land up on top of the table and had to roll a tabletop, which just killed his momentum, and he lost, had no chance at that point. But to ride that hard and to come from that far back, after you were right there. You were in 5th place with this one guy,
And 20 laps is a long time.
20 laps in Supercross it seems like an eternity.
He won the heat race. He's been better than Chad at every race this year. There's no doubt in anybody's mind here that he would have got Chad very quickly.
Well, not at Oakland, though. Oakland, Chad rode well.
True.
Yeah. So, but go ahead. But still, yes.
He was going to get around Chad. I felt that way based on the way he'd been riding all day, and he won the heat race and everything else. And exactly right, Brock. He just forced it a little bit, young guy panicking, seeing, like you said, the top 3 guys getting away from him, and it's like, I got to go.
Clearly, right now, there's 27 points, the 4 contenders for the championship. I'd bet almost anything. You got your one of your champions coming out of the top 4 right now. It's either a Dungey, Roczen, Kennard, or Tomac. That's your 4
and it's
guys.
27 points. So it's
yeah. And it's just, it's a shame for Eli. He's, like Steve was mentioning, he rode very, very well in his heat race, won the heat race, qualified well. He had the whole, he rode well on that track, and he was capable of running right up front in that thing, if not winning it.
And none of this stuff counts until we get to Daytona anyways, right?
No, believe me, it all counts.
Says a road race guy.
Yes,
Daytona works through Daytona.
Yeah, no, I just think Daytona is the point where you start to see guys. It separates the men from the boys, and you go
up until I don't know. I remember about 10 years back when everybody talked about whoever won Anaheim won, like 73.5% of the time won the championship. It does set the tone all year long. It sets the confidence level. And at this point, that little bit of confidence is important. But unfortunately, like I said, Eli just I don't know if it's impatience, youth, whatever you call it. But Chad kind of nails it on the head.
The one thing is that Kenny Roczen's not exactly a seasoned vet. Only a second year in the class. Trey Kennard, we've seen. I don't know. Sometimes when I watch Trey Kennard ride, I have one eye closed because I'm like what's going to happen? So we're not exactly around a bunch of and Ryan Dungey aside, because he is the calm.
Yeah,
steady.
Ryan Dungey's the one that's not going to mess up.
But 3 out of the top 4 guys, I feel, can have very sketchy moments. Right. We saw Roczen in Oakland, and that's the good news for Eli, is that maybe some more mistakes are coming from 3 of the other 2 guys, other than Ryan Dungey.
But every guy that goes through the entire series, you almost always have a throwaway. Dungey is probably the most steady Eddie of them all, no question about it. But even when RV won his championships, he had moments where it's like, oh my gosh, he just got to.
They didn't qualify one round.
Yeah. Incredible situations happen. So we'll see. But fun series. We don't have the James Stewart and the Ryan Villapoto, but we still have a great series going.
Oh, absolutely.
And as far as the road race guy sitting here is concerned, the most impressive guy that I've seen race the whole series so far is Cooper Webb. And yesterday was probably the most impressive, because if you saw his accident on TV,
how couldn't you? Every newscast last night showed it in San Diego.
His crash was just the kind you don't usually get up from. And then he came back and won the main event. And then now he's got a 2-month break. And the other guys who are 30 points behind him have a lot to think about in those 2 months.
You have 3 rounds left. He's got a 30-point. He's got a race and 5 points lead, and he's only got 3 to go. I mean, in 2 more races, he have this thing wrapped up by the time he get to Santa Clara.
Yeah, everything's falling in place for him. We knew he'd be good, and everything's falling in place for him. So he's looking great for the title.
All right. Well, we got lots to talk about.
I was going to say, just getting started.
This is a guy, Steve Matthes is a reporter. I mean, people don't realize he was actually a good motorcycle rider, and we know very few of us give him credit for that. But actually, good rider in his day, comes from Canada, moves down here, and this guy is in the trenches, behind the scene, in Chad Reed's motorhome probably after the race. He's in the trenches. So I can't wait to dig up some stories from him after the break and Get him online.
I do like it, and from what I've heard, pretty ballsy reporter.
Yes, he is
quite ballsy.
And you know what? We'll get.
I think Paul can relate to that.
We're going to turn the table a little bit here and get him in the hot seat instead of making the guys the other side, Mike, nervous.
Well, another good person to have in studio. So we'll talk to Steve Matthes coming up next, but also a good person to have in your corner. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys, my friends.
Believe me, when you are a character like you, absolutely got to know an attorney and a good accountant.
And I'm hoping we signed up some BAM members out at Anaheim. Russ Brown gave us some.
What is
BAM
cards again? Tell us what BAM is.
Well, it's the writer assistance program out there. And say I happen to break down. You call the BAM program, and someone like Broc Glover.
It's kind of
writers helping writers.
Uberish situation for your motorcycle, right?
AAA-esque as well.
Yeah,
all the above.
You break down. You have a problem. Yep. Next thing you know, they contact the BAM people, and they contact a local motorcycle guy to come out and help you out.
Writers helping writers.
That's what
I wish
it's all
the
about.
entire world just functioned as well as the BAM program.
And it's a donational situation, right? It doesn't cost you any money.
And so check it out. If you haven't signed up already, shame on you. Go do that. But here is one of those helpful writing hints from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys have been representing riders for decades. And here's Chuck Coro from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys to provide you with a helpful writing hint.
If you were unfortunate enough to be in a motorcycle crash, get detailed witness information of all favorable witnesses, even if the other driver admits faults. Oftentimes, the other driver will tell a different story later on.
This helpful hint was brought to you by Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys at 1-800-4BIKERS or online at russbrown.com.
Oh, officer, thank you for stopping. It's my husband.
What?
His tongue is frozen to the back bumper.
So how did he...
We were going skiing and we got stuck in the snow, and while Hal was struggling to push us out, he slipped and his tongue...
Well, only one thing to do.
What?
Celebrate Toyota Carlsbad's 43rd birthday and get big savings on new and used Toyotas. Get a free pair of lift tickets to Mountain High, Southern California's closest winter resorts while supplies last. Get 1 pair per new or used Toyota test drive. No purchase necessary. Must be 18 years old with California driver's license and insurance.
Toyota Carlsbad.
Details at ToyotaCarlsbad.com.
Here's an idea. Bear with me. You could save quite a bit of money just by switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico. Piles of it, in fact. But there may not be a lot of room on your bike for all that extra cash. So I had somewhat of an idea. You could get one of those nifty little sidecars, pile it up with all that money you just saved, and merrily drive on your way. It's just a thought. Just off the top of my head.
Call Geico today for a free motorcycle rate quote. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are the real deal. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Their entire practice is dedicated to representing motorcyclists. As riders themselves, they understand why you ride, the issues you face, and the motorcycle culture. For over 30 years, Russ Brown and his partner Chuck Coro have been helping injured motorcyclists and their families get the care and compensation they deserve. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys also created BAM. BAM! A nationwide buddy system of over 2 million riders helping riders in the event of a roadside emergency. BAM offers free legal advice, and thanks to Russ Brown, they have staff on hand to take your call 24/7, 365 days a year.
Imagine a real person answering the phone 24/7.
Just call 1-800-4BIKERS for more information and to get your BAM card today. If you go down, call Russ Brown, 1-800-4BIKERS, and online at russbrown.com.
Hi, James here from Toyota of Escondido. Guys, if you're hearing this commercial, that means you are into powerful machines that go fast and are durable. Toyota of Escondido has the biggest selection in San Diego of Toyota Tacomas and Toyota Tundras. Whether for work or play, we can customize the truck of your choice into the truck of your dreams. Don't waste time anywhere else. Stop by or give us a call. Toyota of Escondido. Freeway close where Highway 78 meets Broadway, just east of the 15.
You're listening to Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Welcome back, Bike Week Radio Show, San Diego sports leader, mighty 1090, and we'll be checking in with Scott Burnworth coming up shortly. Third annual Carlsbad MX reunion coming to the Booze Brothers Brewery in Vista. They open up the gates and start pouring at noon. They'll be there till 7 is when they got to roll you guys out of there. But I have a feeling there'll be a lot of good memories and a lot of fun stories being shared up there at the Booze Brothers Brewery. And so we'll check in with Burner in a little bit. But in studio right now, Steve Matthes, pulpmx.com. You can also follow him on Twitter and Instagram at pulpmx. And we were just talking at the break. We have a couple seasoned journalists in studio and guys who aren't afraid to stir the pot. And so,
Steve. So, a lot of people, Steve Matthes, I read him on Racer X all the time. I read him, Pulp MX, I'll follow him on the radio show. I listen to his show. But tell us a little bit about, where you started. How did you get, it's not like you just showed up and it's one of these guys that just can't ride a motorcycle and all of a sudden picks up a pen or a typewriter or something. So, typewriter, how's that aging myself? Keyboard. So, from Canada originally. Obviously, your brother Jason came down with you in studio here and threw a few A's in the back room there, so we know where you're for sure from Canada. So, your racing career.
Yeah, just, born and raised up in Canada, and like a lot of people that end up down here that aren't racers, you eventually end up realizing you're either not fast enough or you get hurt too much, and then your pro career doesn't work. Never really had much of one. Tried to race some Canadian nationals, didn't go far, got hurt all the time, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make it as a pro racer, but the next best thing is maybe being a mechanic. I was always into working on bikes, and my dad is a car mechanic, and so I got a job as a mechanic in 1996. I said to the team owner, look, he kind of knew me. I said, I'll work for free for 2 weeks, and if you don't like what I'm doing, send me home, but I really want to do this. And so he's like, okay. And so I worked for Sean Kalos and Corey Keeney at first in 96. And then he ended up keeping me. I remember telling my mom in 96, hey, I'm going to do this first summer, and I'll come back home. And never went back home. Got another job as a mechanic. Eventually worked for a couple of factory teams and did the mechanic thing for 11 or 12 years, and then kind of
a couple of factory teams, like Team Factory Yamaha.
Yeah, Yamaha and KTM.
KTM,
yeah,
okay.
KTM, yeah.
So you were Tim Ferry's mechanic at Yamaha.
I worked for Tim Ferry for 4 years. I worked for Kelly Smith at KTM for a couple of years. Nick Way, Team Moto Triple X. A few different privateers here and there, but mostly Tim Ferry for 4 or 5 years. So, and then after I kind of moved in, I got a little tired of that, and Timmy got let go at Yamaha, and I wanted to move into something else and kind of segue my way into media, and Davey Coombs at Racer X was cool enough to give me a shot, and so now I've been doing this stuff for a while now, going to all the races every week, just about going to every one, and Motocross the Nations in Europe and all that. Been having a blast. I've been having a good time doing it. Got further than I ever thought, and this little radio show that we did on Monday nights called the Pulp MX Show has been pretty successful in that term, but yeah, I've been having fun.
Well, that's the reason we were on Sundays, because we didn't want to compete against you. But hey, I have a question. So tell me, highlight.
This is real radio, though. I just have internet radio.
Yes. As a mechanic, I know people come in here, they go, holy God, you guys got seriously got 5-6 microphones around a table. You got the whole setup here. It's a real radio station. You got to have key fobs to get in all the security.
Yeah.
So, from your racing career up in Manitoba, right?
Yeah,
you're amateur. You won some titles up there, right?
Yeah, I won some titles up there. I won some Canadian Loretta Lynn's titles, amateur national stuff and all that. So,
who was your biggest competition, like Blair Morgan's and guys like that?
No, Blair's a little younger than me, but he was certainly a competitor. JSR was 1 year ahead of me.
John Sebastian.
Who was the Canadian Loretta Lynn?
No, the Canadian. I always related to Americans.
Celine Dion.
Yeah, exactly.
Celine Dion.
She's over the long skinny neck.
I have four. I have 4 Celine Dion titles.
Okay,
so it's fantastic. And my heart will go on with that.
Mark that here at Bike Week Radio Show. We coined this Celine Dion thing, Scott Cox.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's and just eventually you realize, look, I'm not that good. I'm not Broc Glover. I'm not going to win a bunch of titles. I'm not fast enough, and the cold hard reality gets to you. But I wanted to be involved in the sport still, and I didn't want to, kind of not take a shot at being a mechanic, and so that was my next kind of move into it. I wasn't.
What's your highlight as a mechanic? What was your highlight?
Golden boy, there's so many.
Well, I mean,
no, I'm just kidding. I won a national with Kelly Smith, 2000
right.
High Point, first ever KTM win. I won Summercross. I won. Tim Ferry won Summercross, something called Summercross,
right.
Which wouldn't really count people except McGrath raced it, and so beating Jeremy McGrath is pretty cool.
Yes. Was that the Steve McLaughlin race at the?
I don't know.
It might have been.
It was in the middle of June or July at the Coliseum.
Yeah, that was Steve McLaughlin promoted that.
The old road racer. That's why Paul knows.
Oh, okay.
Steve McLaughlin, and he's coming back to do. He's
working at AMA Pro for dirt track.
For dirt track, he's going to run the AMA Pro dirt track.
I don't think he's running it,
or he's involved for at least as a consultant.
level.
So you went from that's one of your
so
highlights.
A couple of and I took Nick Way and Tim Ferry were both top privateers, and then I got on the factory teams the next year. But it's a rewarding thing, You spend a lot of time on the road and a lot of time on in hotels and driving across the country. But yeah, man, I wouldn't have traded for anything. So.
Okay, low point of your mechanicking career.
Well, there's so many of those actually too.
No, there's not.
I had a couple of bike failures that weren't my fault, but just faulty parts, like the crank retainer bearing screw, retainer screw breaking off while Timmy was third place at Hangtown with like 2 laps to go. So that's a lonely pushback to
four-stroke stuff. Yeah.
Four-stroke stuff, yeah, exactly. I had an ignition go out one time on a 4-stroke.
Those are the teething pains of bringing those bikes into the beginning.
When Yamaha came out with them, we definitely struggled a little bit with some issues, and we kind of, I think Yamaha helped other manufacturers look at, hey, let's not do that. Let's go this way as far as carb mounting or the valves set up or whatever.
Or hot start. Remember the hot starting issues? I mean, I remember watching Doug Henry. Dude, I got Timmy Ferry on the brain here. Just looking at you. I mean, geez. That's your claim to fame.
Who's he working with now?
Yeah, exactly.
Who won last night?
Okay.
Drake
there you go. So, and Steve will never let us forget the highlights of Tim Ferry, which I love Tim. Don't get me wrong, but Homer boy.
I think my listeners won't forgive me either.
They won't forgive you. No. So, yes, I never forget watching Doug Henry. Jeez, Freudian slips.
Tim Henry, isn't
it? Yeah. Race all the way through and come up with Tortelli at the LA Coliseum and then fall down, and not be able to start his bike. And incredible, just like, are you kidding me? Get an electric start, do something to those stupid 4-strokes and make them fire back up. But so let me tell you, my personal Steve Matthes mechanicking low point was watching you struggle, and I don't say, boy, this was Matthes screwing up. I was very frustrated at the whole situation at the Motocross of Nations over in Zolder, Belgium, and watching the American team. It was we had Ryan Hughes, we had Ricky Carmichael going mano a mano with Stefan Everts right there in his home country, and we had Tim Ferry riding the Yamaha 450 there, and that bike with the fuel, the unleaded fuel, we were still running, I think, leaded fuel at the time, or at least running a different fuel. And then the muffler situation where there were a lot lower sound levels than we were. Went out, tested at Lommel a few days early, getting ready for Zolder, and the bike just never ran right. And no matter what you did to that thing, you could not get it to run right. And it was like I felt.
Thanks for bringing that up, Broc.
No, so I'm just saying. So I felt for you. That was like I actually had compassion for Steve Matthes, if you can imagine that.
Yeah,
and me having compassion.
Some people in the pits would not be happy
low
with
ebb.
Yeah.
I know that was maybe my low. But
I remember after the race, you were angry.
Well, I was frustrated because Yamaha.
Not at me, but
Yamaha could have helped you, and it's like at this point, I know it's Motocross of Nations, but Yamaha helped guys from Italy. They helped. Their job was to help Yamaha riders, and you had a factory Yamaha rider over there, and they had no. You might as well be working out of a back of a pickup truck off to the side. It was terrible. I mean, you were abandoned.
When you compare Team USA when we went in 03 to Team USA now, it's unbelievable. I think we had 8 people on the whole team. Now there's 8 people per rider over there.
Absolutely.
And, it's no coincidence that USA lost that year, and they didn't go back the next year because morale, support was maybe at an all-time low. And you, Broc, who rode for the Motocross of Nations, and you have passionate feelings about it. It was a real eye-opener for me to be selected for perhaps the sport's highest honor to go to Motocross of Nations, even though I'm Canadian. But it doesn't matter. I've been living here long enough, and going to the Motocross of Nations as a mechanic was incredible. And then we get there, and we're all just so disillusioned. We're just like, wow, really? This is really what happens? From management to help to structure to everything. It was really, it was not a fun experience. No way, and it should have been great.
Yeah, it was disheartening to watch from for me too. And it's ironic because when I went to Europe and lived there in Belgium, that track was only 5-10 miles from where I lived, and it just felt almost like a semi-local race for me to go back there and to see and the Yamaha thing and to see every Yamaha rider who goes, they use the same fuel every time in the Grand Prix. They use the same exhaust pipe, muffler, sound test, whole thing. It was like lips were sealed, and there was like no help coming your way. And even our own internal structure a little bit. Maybe one of our own guys could have said, "Hey, Steve, I don't know if you tried this, you tried that." And it was just literally, it was Steve and Tim Ferry, and I don't even remember if there was anybody at all.
One other guy,
and that was it. There was the three of them over there going, "Man, my bike's not running right," and you could hear it not running right. It was the whole thing. It was like, man, is anyone going to kind of try to go, "Hey, when you have a 3-man team." And you got one of them really struggling. You're a pretty weak pyramid there, and we needed Timmy's bike to get going, and it'd been 2 or 3 days of struggling with that thing.
Well, he'd crashed first Moto 2 and broke his thumb, tore ligaments in his thumb, and it was just a disaster.
So in general, I mean, that's just for me, Steve. I've been talking about soft heart for you, buddy.
Thanks, Golden Boy.
There, so.
If you had told a 15-year-old Steve Matthes that Broc Glover would feel sorry for him one day, he wouldn't have believed you.
I just felt that at that point. So. What's your feeling of right now? I mean, the Supercross series and what's going on out there, and kind of the health of the sport, and your whole take on what's happening on the series right now.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, with James Stewart suspended, and I'm sure you guys have covered that from head to toe, and Ryan Villopoto leaving for the GPs, I do feel like the door is open for. And I mean, look, the hashtag Who's Next has been pounded into the ground, and it's kind of a little silly, but in a way, it's absolutely 100% correct. Who is next here? Ryan Villopoto won 4 titles in a row. James Stewart's won a ton of races and a bunch of titles, so those guys are gone. And now we have the Eli Tomac, the Kenny Roczen, and Trey Canard. So who is going to grab that mantle? Who is going to be the next guy? And I mean, who wants to see kind of a lack of parity in the sport week in and week out that we've been seeing for a number of years? Now I think it's pretty exciting. Like, I don't know. Who's going to win, and every weekend it seems. I mean, I think there's 4 guys breaking away, like you spoke of, Brock. But I think it's been a great year for the sport, and we're getting a little transition in the 250 class. Seeley, Anderson, they're out of there, and we're seeing some new heroes emerge in the kids. And certainly Jeremy Martin's coming up this weekend in Dallas, and he won the national title. So we are in a little bit of transition phase, and some guys are moving out. Chad Reed, can he get his magic back? I don't know. And we're getting some turnover in the sport, so it's pretty interesting.
So you mentioned Cole Seeley. I don't want to say a surprise. I mean, we're talking about who to you has been the biggest disappointment, who's been the biggest surprise this year. I mean, to have Cole Seeley run second place last week, he actually won his heat race, had the speed probably to be near the podium last night. So he's been a little bit of a positive surprise. Who do you think has been, let's say, a little bit of a disappointment or surprise they're not doing better than they are?
I think taking a year off racing, Brock, and as a racer, it's pretty tough to do. So I wasn't sure how Davey Millsaps would do. That's a big risk by Kawasaki, filling Ryan Villopoto's shoes with Davey Millsaps. And I know there's been some stuff going on. He's been sick behind the scenes. He hasn't been 100%. But he's certainly been a disappointment on a bike that won the last 4 titles.
Especially after you watched what you saw at the Monster Energy Cup. You thought this guy's going to come out and be a champion, title contender. But talk about his health a little bit. He has had some. I talked to him last week, and he said this was the first, at the Toyota Escondido opening, this is the first week he's actually been able to ride motos. He has not been healthy enough. Do you know more about his health condition?
I don't really know more other than the same thing he kind of probably told you. He told me, like, hey, I haven't been able to do motos. I've only been able to do 2 laps at a time, and that's the reason why it's been struggling. And the Cowie guys are like, look, we think it's going to go better from here. San Diego, we're probably not going to be great, but in 3-4 weeks, we're going to be where we need to be. Unfortunately, the other pack might be ahead of him by then too, so I don't know if he can get back to that magic. But certainly I think Davey Millsaps has been a bit of a struggle. And then maybe on the other side, Justin Barcia. Obviously, he crashed this week. He missed San Diego here. Is that working, that signing? I don't think we know. There was a lot of unhappiness over at Honda with Justin Barcia. Not happy with the bike, not happy with the direction of things going on. Now, Honda's changed things up, and they've certainly proven to have an open mind with putting the KYB suspension on Trey Canard's bike.
Yeah, that was a big. I mean,
for Honda, that's huge.
People don't understand that's such a big move. When you own a company like Showa,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden you go to the dark side and come put your competitor's product on your bike. I guarantee that shook things up from top to bottom at Showa.
So I think when you look at Justin Barcia going into San Diego, he was 6th in the points. That's okay when you look at the only guy ahead of him was Jason Anderson, and he was right on him. So, hey, okay. The top 4 guys were breaking away a little bit. I think 6th in the points is a little misleading when you watched him on the track. It was sort of – he was good, but he wasn't great. He's paid to win races or get on the podium. So that jury is out on the Justin Barcia signing, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm. His top finish being a fourth. And I think this week I heard about it, but I didn't know too much details. I guess he crashed very heavily at the Yamaha. They might have touched on it on TV last night. I don't know.
Apparently, over a triple jump on the track, they don't know if what the bike did or what happened. Stepped through the bars, stepped up, went over the bars, stepped through, and was rolling up the windows in the air, and then just landed. And not good. Couldn't walk. Big fears. Now it turns out there's some bone chips off of a pelvis, so he could race this weekend. But very serious at the time. And is this something that's going to affect them going forward? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and it's also I've kind of been there before. When they start, the more zeros you get on your contracts, the expectations get a lot higher. And when those expectations aren't met, or you have even injuries and things, people start pointing the fingers because they don't like writing the check every month. And it's like, wait a minute, look, I'm sitting around with a broken leg or chips coming off my pelvis from a crash trying to practice to do good on your bike, and I'm sorry I broke and crashed really hard. I didn't want to crash either, so don't resent writing the check to me that you signed willingly when you opened it. But it does. It starts throwing some resentment around, and then unhappiness settles into the team, and fingers start getting pointed, and it doesn't take long to deteriorate the morale of a team, and then to make injuries or throw some salt in the wound there. You get a guy like a Weston Pike tosses in this tremendous ride at Phoenix, and it's like, hey, this guy has a complete zero, much less, maybe 2 zeros less on his contract than you do, and he's running around almost beating Ryan Dungey. And so, it's
But
tough.
that team should be pretty used to having a low morale, though.
Well, I don't.
I mean, it's
come on.
The thing with Stewart kind of went bad, and it's just kind of like with that team, it's just always been like, okay, what's going to happen? They just don't. I don't know if it's luck or whatever, but just I know they have a lot of bad luck, is what you see from looking at it from the outside.
Well, they definitely took a swing and they missed with Stewart. I don't think the bike was on par. It's a different, radical design. Kudos to Yamaha for trying something different, but I think it's taken some time to work the bugs out. But Paul, you're right. Stewart, they swung and missed. There's no doubt. They paid him a lot of money. Got very little results. This is their next step up to the plate with Justin Barcia. Paid him a lot of money. And I don't think this is a hit right now.
Right.
So, they could be 0 for 2 with signing big dogs going for the win. You know what? I know Pike from riding him, being with him around over the years. Him beating Barcia at Phoenix to him is incredible motivation. The team knows that he was, they had to pick of the run of the mill of guys for that second spot.
Right.
And Yamaha pushed for Pike. And literally the JGR guy's like, hey, we don't care. Whoever you want, Yamaha. He was almost a throw-in. And here he beat Barcia at Phoenix. And I know Pike wants to beat Barcia when he comes back. He might be back this weekend again. So heavily motivated Weston Pike to show those guys.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, I actually had some time chatting with his father yesterday. And, no question about it. But, he wants to, in Weston's defense, too, wait till you're able to ride like you did at Phoenix before you come back, because it's not going to do any good coming back. Like in Davey Millsap's situation, I think he rode a lot of the season on, he wasn't healthy and he's not physically fit. But going out there and just going through the motions just to try to work your way back to when you get to where you're healthy, when you can actually be your real self, it almost, it becomes, like you said, a topic of who's one of the biggest disappointments of the season, instead of just saying, look, I'm coming back when I'm ready and healthy. So Pike, if he's not ready this weekend, he should wait one more and just come back and try to do how he did at Phoenix.
Absolutely. No, it should be interesting to see how it goes. The jury's out on the Barcia thing. I don't know if it's a hit or a miss or what yet, but it should be interesting to see what goes on from here. I don't know if we take a break or not, but
no, keep going.
Did the move? I want to talk about San Diego, especially Broc. Did the move from Qualcomm, 30 years at Qualcomm Stadium, Jack Murphy, did it work? What'd you think? And nobody knows this better than you. What'd you think?
The venue's great. It's downtown. For me, it was the first race in as long as I can remember that I physically couldn't do my Dunlop job with the efficiency that myself, the team that I work with at Dunlop, do normally. I wasn't able to watch the heat race starts because I needed to do some work for my guys. But we were literally taking snapshots of sheets and fitment sheets and things like that, photoing them, sending them back to us. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at my smartphone and writing down information in the computer and then printing it off and then running it back down. So I saw the mains. I never saw the heat race.
So that was the pit setup.
The pit setup is so far. They've got to figure out a way to come in through. We're outside, way outside of the right field area, and the pits where you have to enter the track, go across trolley tracks, around the whole AMA paddock setup, around. There were 3 different major parking lots. Mm-hmm. You had to go back down to the bay almost, around this little bike lane, and to come around into the far left field corner to get into the stadium. It was literally like a mile.
But the spectator experience has to be better.
Over the top.
Because the other place is a dump.
Qualcomm is a dump, and that's the problem we have.
Hey, Paul, but it's our dump.
It is. And you know what? That's the one the seagulls fly over and say, not here. So they the point is, you are on top of the track. It's very intimate. It's an incredible place. The food's better. The vendors are, everything about it's better, except for us working the thing. So, give and take, I'd have to say it's a plus right now, no question.
It would have been nice, too, if someone paid the cable bill and we were able to get that big Jumbotron.
Yeah, the Jumbotron, the little tiny TV they had out there does not work. We got to get that, but next year I'm sure they'll have
it is a brand new Jumbotron, so maybe just it wasn't set up yet.
Yep.
But that thing is going to be very cool once that thing gets plugged in, because it's a huge Jumbotron. Love it. All right, coming up next, Scott Burnworth, 3rd annual Carlsbad MX reunion is today. And so we'll give you the details on that coming back right here, San Diego Sports Leader, Mighty 1090.
Officer, thank you for stopping. My husband.
What?
His tongue is frozen to the back bumper.
So how did he...
We were going skiing and we got stuck in the snow, and while Hal was struggling to push us out, he slipped and his tongue...
Well, only one thing to do.
What?
Celebrate Toyota Carlsbad's 43rd birthday and get big savings on new and used Toyotas. Get a free pair of lift tickets to Mountain High, Southern California's closest winter resorts while supplies last. Get 1 pair per new or used Toyota test drive. No purchase necessary. Must be 18 years old with California driver's license and insurance.
Toyota Carlsbad.
Details at ToyotaCarlsbad.com.
Here's an idea. Bear with me. You could save quite a bit of money just by switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico. Piles of it, in fact. But there may not be a lot of room on your bike for all that extra cash. So I had somewhat of an idea. You could get one of those nifty little sidecars, pile it up with all that money you just saved, and merrily drive on your way. It's just a thought. Just off the top of my head.
Call Geico today for a free motorcycle rate quote. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are the real deal. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Their entire practice is dedicated to representing motorcyclists. As riders themselves, they understand why you ride, the issues you face, and the motorcycle culture. For over 30 years, Russ Brown and his partner Chuck Coro have been helping injured motorcyclists and their families get the care and compensation they deserve. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys also created BAM. BAM! A nationwide buddy system of over 2 million riders helping riders in the event of a roadside emergency. BAM offers free legal advice, and thanks to Russ Brown, they have staff on hand to take your call 24/7, 365 days a year.
Imagine a real person answering the phone 24/7.
Just call 1-800-4BIKERS for more information and to get your BAM card today. If you go down, call Russ Brown. 1-800-4BIKERS and online at russbrown.com.
This is Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the Mighty 1090.
Welcome back, Bike Week Radio Show, San Diego sports leader, Mighty 1090. Let's head out to the hotline right now. Give everybody the details about this Carlsbad reunion today. Scott Burnworth joins us. Burner, how we doing, buddy?
How's it going?
Fantastic.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Really good. Scott Cox and I called each other and dressed exactly alike, and we both have our Carlsbad reunion.
Apparel.
We do. We have our. Yep, we have our Carlsbad reunion
We're
shirts
in
on.
Burr Animals.
Right on. We're ready to go. We're setting up.
Where are you setting up, by the way? Where is this place?
We're at the Booth Brothers Brewing Company in Vista, and it's right off Sycamore on Progress Street, and it's actually at 2545 Progress Street, Suite D in Vista.
Spell that Progress Street.
Did you get there early to clean those vats, Burner?
What? Spell it.
I'm just doing a little testing now. Make sure all the beer's fine.
What's spell that street? Praga. Is it Praga? What?
Progress.
Oh, Progress.
Sound like Prague.
Progress.
Yeah,
Sounds like someone's already been tasting the Blues Brothers.
This side of the table, our electronics must mean, because Paul and I still looked at each other like, what did he just say? I say Progress. Okay, so perfect. So, Scotty, in relationship to Carlsbad Raceway, you're talking a quarter mile, half a mile, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. If you've ever attended any of the other events, it's just around the corner. There's a couple of other restaurants or stores around there, aren't there?
It's mostly breweries around in this area.
Well, that's what San Diego's getting known for, is the microbrew. So got some good moto brews up there. We're all ready to.
Yeah, they got all weights up here, and we got a lot of MX legends. That's yourself coming up, and we're gonna have a good time. We got some good food coming.
I heard guys like Tom. I mean, talking about Carlsbad, Tommy Croft and Marty Smiths and the Billy Urbans and trying to get Jim Beecham up there. These are the guys. We were checking out some of the articles and looking at some of the stuff they had at Jimmy Beecham's party last night. I mean, some 1971, 72, 73 Cycle News reprints up there on a board. Those were talking about cool. That's Carlsbad in its infancy, and that was awesome. So. A lot of fun. I went last year for an hour or two and stayed 5 or 6 because I had such a great time. So anybody that's even remotely into moto has ever spent one lap at Carlsbad, you got to come to this thing. So it's tons of fun.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, how can you go wrong with bikes, beers, good friends?
You got it. Great stories too, Scotty. All right. Well, we will see you. No question about that. We're going to call. Keep my mug nice and chilled, and we'll see you and sample the local brewery.
It starts at 12 o'clock and ends at 7 p.m.
Wow, that's longer than Matthes' show.
I know. Hey, Steve, you coming on up?
No, I'm flying home. I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah,
come on, man.
Give the dogger my regards if he shows up too. I was looking for him yesterday.
That's
I think
right.
He's still in bed.
And we probably don't. And you know what? We probably don't have. He's got his brother Jason Harris, so we probably don't have enough beer in San Diego to take care of 2 Canadians. They can pound that stuff back.
They don't have Labatt's, though. So.
No, I'm out.
Man, he's out for sure. Okay.
No cocaine.
All right, Scotty, we'll see you today at the 3rd Annual Carlsbad MX Reunion at Booze Brothers up in Vista.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
So, Steve, we're back at it. Your show.
Yeah, it's going good. Pulp MX show, Monday night, 6 o'clock Pacific.
Yep.
Tune in.
So it says it goes 4 hours sometimes.
4.5. Yeah.
We'd have to have 2 Brocs to get through 4 hours.
We did 2 shows last week, and it was 9 hours. And
seriously?
Yeah, we did 2 shows, Monday, Tuesday. We only do usually 1, but yeah.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but the Pulp MX show, and then I've been doing these podcasts, and I always started because I got into these podcasts with sports guys. I'm into hockey, being Canadian, and I started thinking, why can I not listen to the motocross greats tell me about their career on podcasts? And there was nothing out there. This was 5-6 years ago, and I'm like, I guess I got to do it. And I mean, certainly, Brock, you've been a guest a few times, and I've interviewed all the sports greats and industry people.
By the way, he always cuts me off after 10 or 15 minutes. So
well, on the Pulp show, I do.
Yeah. Now I know the podcast too. So now I know. No, it's just
he's like, hey, Brock, we got to get rid of you. You only have 3 hours and 45 minutes left.
Yeah.
To be Brock,
then your second bite. We'll get into it next show.
To be fair, Brock's podcast, this 101 podcast, not the Pulp show, was the second longest one I've ever done. Nobody is surprised.
Get out of here, Bobby.
Nobody's surprised. Really? And I loved it. I loved it. And how many times does Brock bring up 85 Supercross title? Does that ever happen much? Or?
Not here.
Okay.
We don't allow that.
They keep me woke around.
Yeah. I think you got a point though. You have a point.
No,
you have a point on that.
There's a lot of behind the scenes crap on that thing.
But anyway, so I do these podcasts, and I've had a great time doing them, and I've got these guys' stories, and they're fantastic, and kind of evolved from doing these podcasts into this Pulp MX show that's live, and it's a little more current with the current riders and things like that. But
and it's better than writing because you don't have to transcribe.
Oh, anything. I know. You know what? The best thing I've ever done is pay this girl to transcribe for me. She charges 1 cent a word, and I could pay her 3 times that, and I love it. So
a
that's the worst part of the job.
Being a journalist, okay,
it is the worst part.
I'm in an odd situation myself, being a journalist, so it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to report and not be just some phony homer, and you want to really ask a hard question. How do you keep friendships with your
Why did Brock
with
look
your
at
guy?
me when he said
it's
phony
really
homer?
tough, actually. There are some people in the pits that do not like me. They don't really want to talk to me, and it sucks. But what are you going to do? You know?
And a journalism professor once told me if the people you're covering...
I don't care what a journalist professor ever said, to be honest with you. Go ahead.
No, forget it. I'm not going to...
No, I want to hear it.
The GOAT.
Not a fan.
No, not a fan of Steve Matthes, is he?
And you know what? Hey, you win some, you lose some along the way. And certainly Paul knows what I'm talking about, too. He wrote some things for Cycle News that probably made some people angry. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I guess when you make an omelet, you got to break some eggs.
If they're all happy, you're not doing your job.
Exactly.
Thank you.
But Brock doesn't care about journalism professors,
no,
so he doesn't know anything about that.
I don't care about them at all, because you know what? Those who do. Those who can't teach, and those who can't teach write about it. So that's about how the pecking order goes, brother.
And that's how we'll leave this show. Thank you guys again for tuning in. If you missed any of the program, head to bikeweekradioshow.com, check it out on iTunes, or download that handy-dandy smartphone app. Stay tuned. Craig Elston and Jay Parrish are coming up next, live from Torrey Pines. And if I look at the leaderboard, there's somebody named Glover tied for second. Are you late for your tea time, buddy?
I am. Hurry up.
All right. We'll be back next Sunday right here on San Diego Sports Leader, the Mighty 1090.
You've been listening to Bike Week Radio Show.
Powered by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Join us next week for more Bike Week Radio Show on San Diego's sports leader, the Mighty 1090.